ceremony and Day of Remembrance. This is a very special event near and dear to my heart. Before I speak about my experiences, I too want to thank all of law enforcement, our intelligence services, our military personnel for keeping us free from terrorism for the past 8 years. It is not luck or coincidence. It is hard work by dedicated patriots. We should never take for granted our safety and our freedom. Let me tell you just a little bit about my background. I was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1959. I'm the youngest of 3 boys. My dad was a second-generation American. He was born in New York City and he's 100% Irish. He was a World War II Marine who fought on Iwo Jima. Upon returning from World War II, he became a New York City policeman. He retired after 23 years. Mom was 100% Italian and was a stay-at-home mom early on. When I was 10, she went to work in Lower Manhattan for Chase Bank, 2 blocks east of the World Trade Centers, and she worked there for 23 years. I started my career in 1980 working for Wall Street firms in downtown New York City. Most of my career was spent downtown Manhattan, close to or inside the trade centers. From 1986 to 1992, I worked on the 102nd floor of the World Trade Center, or the South Tower as it was referred to. The World Trade Centers by themselves are small cities with approximately 40,000 people inside them on any given day. I hope I can paint a clear picture of what it was like to personally witness the tragic events of 9/11 through my eyes. It's not an easy story to tell, yet it must be told. I think everyone here remembers where they were when they first found out about the terrorist attacks. Everyone remembers their feelings as they watched America under attack. The morning of September 11th in New York City was a clear blue sky warm day. I was in my 8th floor office that morning with a direct view of the World Trade Centers. At about 8:30 a.m., I went to the 4th floor cafe to get some breakfast. As I was heading back to my office, some co-workers were peering out the windows facing the trade centers. I casually asked what was going on. Someone said a plane had hit Trade Center 1. Everyone's first thought, it must be a small plane or a Cessna. At that moment, there wasn't much smoke or fire, so I went back to my desk. I sat down. As I was sitting, more and more people were walking towards the windows. Someone mentioned to me that a commercial airliner had struck the tower. And everyone's first thought, how could that be? I got up and walked a few feet to the windows, and what I saw made my stomach sick. In just a few short minutes, World Trade Center 1 had huge gaping holes, was engulfed in flames, and had black smoke pouring out from it. I rushed back to my desk, for I wanted to call Jimmy, my lifelong best friend, who worked at World Trade Center 1 on the 104th floor for Cantor Fitzgerald. Jimmy and I met in first grade 36 years previous and have been friends ever since. I tried his office, and there was no answer. I tried his cell phone, and there was no answer. I kept trying both phones 3 or 4 more times, hoping he would answer. Jimmy lived in New Jersey near a beautiful golf course, and I thought maybe he took the day off and went golfing. I sure as hell hope so. I dialed his home number, and when I heard "We'll never leave me," Jimmy's wife Sherry answered, and she frantically shouted below. My heart sank, for I knew she was hoping it was Jimmy, and my thought that he was home left me. Before I could say anything, she asked me if Jimmy worked in the tower with the antenna on it, and I said yes. And that building was the building that had been struck moments earlier by a plane. I told her I'll get in touch with him and call her back. I kept trying Jimmy's cell phone with no answer. I'm thinking maybe he didn't get time to grab it. A few minutes went by and I decided to get up from my desk and walk towards the windows again. And as I neared the windows, co-workers already staring out the windows screamed, and some even fell to their knees. And I said, what happened? Someone turned around and said, a second plane hit World Trade Center 2. And right then and there we knew it had to be terrorism, as a plane had never collided in the 30 years of existence of the trade centers. And now in 20 minutes, 2 planes had struck them. The sight was completely awful. Both towers had gaping holes or in flames. It's a sight I'll never forget. As I walked back to my desk, for some reason I glanced at my watch. It was 9:05. And I thought, uh-oh, what about my brother John? Is he working? John was a New York City fireman who worked in Lower Manhattan 5 minutes from the trade centers. A New York City fireman shift starts or ends at 9 o'clock. So it was either working the day shift or finishing the night shift. I hope once again that someone I knew had the day off. I knew my mother kept John's schedule, so I called her. I was amazed at how calm she seemed. I asked her if she saw what was happening on TV, and she said yes. And I said, is John working today? And she said, no, he worked the night shift. For the second time, I got that pit in my stomach. I just knew John was at the trade center somewhere. He was a 23-year FDNY veteran, and he was the ultimate firefighter. There was no other place he would rather be on the morning of September 11th than at those towers. I thanked Mom and said, I'll call you back. For some reason, I called the firehouse. course, there was no answer. All 12 of the firemen stationed at ladder 3 were at the trade center. My fellow co-workers and I tried frantically to get information to find out what's happening and our other buildings being struck. At this point, everything was moving fast and in slow motion at the same time. I tried to think of any other friends I knew who worked in and around the trade center, and I had friends who were cops and a cousin who was a federal agent and Wall Street colleagues all over Lower Manhattan. But one guy in particular came to mind, my buddy Paul. We had worked together inside the trade centers. He still worked there and actually lived adjacent to him. I tried his office phone, there was no answer. And then I tried it at home, and I got it. It was the best news I had all morning. He told me he was literally knocked out of his chair when the second plane hit. He was frightened but okay, and he was in his apartment taking his 2-year-old son to safety somewhere. He said, call my parents, tell them I'm okay. At that time, the phone stopped working. I never got through to his parents, but at least he was okay. I got up from my desk to walk back to the windows, and the day that started out so beautiful was not beautiful anymore. It was actually horrendous. Both buildings were totally engulfed in flames, with ugly black smoke pouring out of them. But all I could think about was how was anyone getting out of those buildings that was above where the planes hit. Again, someone in the office mentioned they heard the Pentagon had been hit, and that other planes were still in the air. My thoughts were, we're at war, why aren't we defending ourselves? Where the hell are the F-14s and what's happening to us? I kept trying Jimmy's cell phone, but now no calls were going through at all. I hope Jimmy got out in time. Maybe he lost his phone when he was rushing out. We were looking for some positive news at this point. At the office, we were discussing what to do. We thought about evacuating the building, yet we seemed pretty safe where we were. And at the same time, we were hearing all the bridges and tunnels were closed or full of emergency vehicles, and they were asking people to stay put. And the subways weren't running either. There truly was no place to go. So we just watched from the windows, and things were completely out of control. It was really hard to believe what we were witnessing. We were staring at the trade centers, some co-workers and I, when suddenly the South Tower collapsed. Did that just happen? In 10 seconds, a 110-story building disappeared. And I thought, oh my God, 20,000 people just died. The feeling was complete and utter helplessness, and to this day is one of the hardest sights for me to see, to watch those buildings collapse. There was smoke and dust everywhere. We thought we had seen it all that day, and yet it was only getting worse. I knew my brother had to be down there somewhere. I had worked in and around those buildings for many years, and now one of them was 110 stories of nothing but dust. There were no more flames, no columns of iron, no metal, just dust. I saw it happen and I couldn't believe it. My co-workers were getting more information that there were still more hijacked planes in the air. A few of us decided to go outside to see what was going on. It felt and looked like war. People were walking around like zombies, covered in soot and dust, some were crying, and everyone had the same expression of frankness. I kept trying Jimmy's cell phone, but the calls were still not going through. The next news that came across the internet was that a plane had been hijacked and was crashed in Pennsylvania. We just kept thinking that the news isn't getting any better, it's actually getting worse. I'm not a pacifist, and I'm not someone who sits back and lets someone else do it. I love to help people, and here I am, unable to go anywhere or do anything for the people I love, in the city I love, for the country I love. I'm boiling mad, sad, and helpless all at the same time. A few of us decided to pray. People at the office, grown men and women, were praying and crying.